What is this? This is a Matten filter. You need to stay tuned and find out why every single tank that you have fish or shrimp breeding in need to change to these filters. Stay tuned. Hey, what is going on, guys? This is Jason with Rhode Aquatics. Thanks for hanging out with me again. So yes, Matten filters. No, I know what you're wondering. You're wondering, Jason, why do you not have a hat on? You always wear a hat. Well, yes, I do always wear a hat, but my oldest son, who's 19, loves to wear my hats. I had 2 of them made, and he typically only wears one, but sometimes when he can't find his, or not his, but when he can't find that one, he grabs the other one, but he likes to not put either one of them back. So where they're normally at, they're not now. So today, Jason is wearing no hat, but I have answered the age-old question, Jason, are you bald? No, I am not bald yet, but according to my wife, I'm beginning to thin in this general vicinity. So let's move on. Enough of my incessant rambling about whether or not I have a hat on. Matten filters. Why in the world do you need a Matten filter in your tanks that are you're breeding shrimp or you're breeding fish? Remember, either one. This is not just for shrimp. You'll hear me talk about shrimp a lot because I've converted all my shrimp tanks, or I've almost converted all my shrimp tanks over to these Matten filters. The thing about these things is it creates such a huge surface area for stuff to build up on. These have a surface area that's almost 5 times bigger than a sponge filter. Now, these things cost about $15, but you can make your own. You can buy this material. It's a pain to cut this stuff. So actually what I do is I buy them as blanks without this hole in them from Flip Aquatics. I'll leave a link up there above if you guys want to check it out. It's about $15 to buy one of these from him. And the other thing is, since you get them already cut, they fit a lot better because you need these things to fit snug on the sides and on the bottom so that no shrimp, any baby shrimp or baby fish can get on through the bottom of them. And since I needed 45 of them, I didn't want to try to cut out 45 of these because I do not have the right type of tools that it takes to cut this type of foam material. Now the type that I actually use, this is 35 ppi. I think that's like pores per inch or something like that. This seems to be the best for baby shrimp. It keeps the shrimplets from being able to get through the pores to get to the other side, so it protects them. So again, this is the shrimp safest one that you can use, and this is right now currently I think this is the only one that Flip Aquatics actually sells on his website. Now there's more to it than just this. We'll show you that later. I'll show you how you put one of these things together and exactly how it works. But again, let's just talk about the importance of why you need this thing. So the water is constantly being pulled through this. And since it's being pulled through this, that means all of the waste and fish food and bacteria is constantly being pulled and getting stuck onto this filter. So this provides a huge area for biofilm to build up, which shrimp absolutely love and is perfect for the babies. And then the other thing that it does is it provides a huge area for bacteria to build up. The bacteria that takes care of your ammonia and the bacteria that takes care of your nitrite. So you just can't get a better surface area, especially when you're talking about how cheap it is to actually use one of these. So again, this is about $15 if you buy it from Flip Aquatics. A normal sponge filter is $8 or $9, but this works much better again because it has such a big area. So one of the things again that's so good about it is the biofilm. Biofilm is what baby shrimp feed on, and most people have the most trouble with shrimp because they don't have anything for them to feed on. But in reality, that's actually a problem that a lot of people have with baby fish too, is they're not providing some type of source for them to have something to eat on. When you have one of these filters that is matured, that's been in a tank for a long time, there is a ton of different types of things that baby fish and baby shrimp love to feed on. So that's why I love these things, and I'm in the process of changing every single one of my shrimp tanks currently over to these. If you guys are enjoying this video and you would love to see more fish room tours, more fish store tours, and a bunch of cool DIY projects in my amazing fish room, be sure and hit that subscribe button right now. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about exactly how a Matten filter works. Okay, so here we have a tank. We have a Matten filter in it. This is the way that you actually mount a Matten filter, is in the side of the tank here. And so again, it presses up against the edges completely tight so that nothing can get through on the sides. And a lot of people talk about, oh my gosh, these Matten filters are so ugly. But in reality, when you have a tank that's mounted like this and you're looking into it like this, I like the way this creates a black background for you to look into. So I actually like the way that it looks. Now again, if you're running a display tank and you have this thing showing up there, yeah, that's probably not something you want to do. So again, when I'm talking about these, it's really best to use them in a breeding or if you have multiple tanks. But again, it works perfect. If it's something you want to use and you don't mind the way that it looks, then go for it. All right, so let's go ahead and pull this out of here so you can see a little bit more. Okay, so what we have here, let's take it apart. Okay, so normally when you would get just a plain Matten filter and it wouldn't have this hole, so what I use that I found that cuts this hole really well is just use a glass bit, one of the bits you use like to drill a hole in your tank. It cuts through this really easy. And so you just create a hole, but you create a hole a little bit smaller than this. I find it best to use 3/4 inch. The reason being is because you have an air stone that you keep in here. And if you get something too small, that air stone actually won't fit in there. You don't have to use the air stone, but I think it's more efficient when it creates much smaller bubbles. And so the first piece we have is, okay, this is all 3/4 inch. We got a 3/4 inch elbow, and then we got some 3/4 inch pipe. And I know you're going, wait a minute, this doesn't look the same. This doesn't look the same because I actually painted it. So what I've done is I've cut this piece right here because this is the piece that's going to be showing. So when it sticks through the hole like this, it looks better when it's black because it doesn't have this bright white thing sticking out. So that's why I went ahead and painted them black. And then I slit the top right here so that it's got that angle to it. That way the water flows off it easier and it's less likely to get clogged with any type of thing. And so this piece over here, this is the piece that sits in the back. This sits in the back of the tank. This right here needs to set about 1 inch or so from the bottom. You don't want it all the way against the bottom because then it won't be able to get any type of suction. And then what I've done is I've just drilled a hole right here and I've just put a piece of air hose in there. And if you watch, push it out a little bit farther here, you'll see the air hose simply goes in here so that it goes to this stone. So this end right here can go to whatever powers your air. You can use just a single air pump, or you can, if you've got me, if you're like me and you have a big system, then you can just hook it up to one of your ports so that it puts air through it, and then you can adjust it and dial it in so that it's creating the type of stream that you want to pull through. Okay, so again, you have it where you place this piece through it, then you take the 90-degree elbow and hook it on there. You don't have to use any cement on these things. You can just press them in because there's no pressure on them. And it's easier to take them apart when you need to clean them too. And then this piece I like to turn a little bit like this. That way this hose doesn't get pressed against the glass, because a lot of times this thing's pressed right up against the glass because you don't want this taking up a tremendous amount of space in the tank. So what happens as this thing air is going through it and it's bubbling here, those bubbles are traveling up here, and as those bubbles rise, it's causing a suction. It's the exact same principle that's in your sponge filter. As the bubbles rise, it pulls everything, all the water, into the sponge and then goes up the sponge. And so that's why all the particulate and everything else that's in your tank gets drawn into it, and that becomes your mechanical type filtration. So the same thing is that's happening here. Those bubbles go up and it carries the water and stuff with it, and then it'll overflow on this side. And so I'll show you some shots in a minute so you can kind of see what it actually looks like as it's going in the tank. But it's just going to be, water's just going to be trickling over the edge, and there's going to be a lot of bubbles and stuff along with it. So here you can see an actual Matten filter in action. You can see again that water that's pouring over the top that has the bubbles and stuff in it. And again, you can adjust that by adjusting the airflow to whatever you want. You can, make it extremely turbulent. The other thing I like about this is, as you can see, I constantly have a duckweed problem. Since this turns the water around and pushes the duckweed around all the time, the duckweed doesn't seem to grow as fast because it's not sitting still like it normally is. So that's really a benefit. And then if you look down in here, you can see, now a lot of my sponge filters have not been set up a long time, so you don't see a lot on them, but you can see some of the shrimp and stuff that are already starting to begin to graze and to begin to pick on it. And there's even a baby one over there. Again, it's just the absolute perfect scenario to give your baby fish and baby shrimp a place to graze at all times. So that's as simple as this thing is. And again, it's so easy to take it all apart and to clean it up whenever you need to. The only thing I would suggest if you're ever going to set one of these up, it's very difficult to set it up in an already established tank. Believe me, I know, because I'm doing that again to like 40-something tanks, because it's hard to get the material, the substrate out of the way when you put this thing down, so this gets a nice tight seal. So that's really difficult, and it's difficult to get this thing in just straight when you're dealing with a bunch of tanks in a row. So it's really better if you set this up in the beginning, but I know there's sometimes you can't do that. But I'm just warning you, it can be a lot more difficult than just setting a sponge filter in there. All right, there you go. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you've learned something. If you guys haven't subscribed to my channel already, be sure and click that subscribe button so you can see all the crazy stuff that's going on in my fish room, all the builds that I do, all the fish room tours and fish store tours, and everything else I'm doing. You guys will know when that stuff is coming out. If you got a comment, be sure and leave it down below. So thanks again, guys, and God bless.